to the Godfathers of Sicily, where we will explore the world of Italian organized crime. I am Allison, and I am one of the co-hosts on today's episode.
Hey guys, I'm Stella, and today we will discuss the Sicilian Mafia, also known as the Cosa Nostra, as well as the overall impact it has had on modern portrayals of the Mafia and its members.
I'm Charlie, and your third co-host on this fascinating episode. In this episode, we will cover the economic and political origins, the internal structure, characterization, and the psychological effects of the Mafia.
To begin, the Mafia known in television and media can be traced back to the Cosa Nostra, the Sicilian Mafia.
The first study of the Italian Mafia was done by Leopoldo Franchetti in 1897. At a similar time, in 1865, the term Mafia was coined to refer to Sicilian crime groups.
These Sicilian crime groups were claimed to have first appeared after Italy was unified under one rule and feudalism was abolished. Prior to abolishment, Italy, including Sicily, was under different foreign rules that maintained feudal rights.
Due to being under feudal rule, resulted in a lack of social, economic, industrial, and political structure.
So much so that during this time of expanding out of the feudal system, the number of landowners expanded to 20,000.
Yes, and this land was usually granted by Gibelotti, someone very similar to a modern-day landlord, though peasants were still excluded.
From the expansion of landowners, the role of the citrus production marks the economic origins of the Sicilian Mafia.
Sicily is the largest island in the Mediterranean Sea and is located off the southern tip of Italy. Sicily has an extremely diverse landscape that includes mountains, fertile land, and coastal areas.
These fertile plains in the interior of Sicily became a prime spot for the production of lemons.
Soon after falling out of feudal rule, Sicily gained control of the lemon market, setting the sectorial fixed price. This gave Sicily a dominant position in the internal market, making the production very lucrative.
The lemon production began booming in the 1840s, and by 1880, Sicily became the largest supplier of lemons in the world. Sicily made up 78% of the total U.S. import of lemons. At the time, the U.S. was the biggest lemon importer.
Many new landowners turned to citrus products for hopes of capitalizing on Sicily's exquisite climate for lemons.
Unfortunately, due to the lack of structure in the Sicilian government, lemon producers became vulnerable to thieves of the lower class. With the lack of enforcement, the people of Sicily turned to the Mafia for private protection. The use of private protection in Sicily is primarily used to mark the origin of Italian crime.
Private protection in the Mafia is now identified as racketeering and pertains to the idea that in exchange for protection, a person must give the Mafia something in turn for their protection. Racketeering, arson, extortion, intimidation, and usury are the trademark criminal offenses of the Cosa Nostra.
These acts of illegal affairs were usually performed by the soldiers and/or affiliates.
The Cosa Nostra's structure is able to be broken down to better understand the control of organized crime in Italy. At the top of the structures is the Cosci, also known as families that control specific territory.
Inside these families, a boss, elected by affiliates, is put in charge of the management. Under these bosses are usually smaller bosses who control subdivisions, counselors who help the boss with decision-making, soldiers who carry out orders, and affiliates who are not officially a part of the Mafia but help facilitate operations.
This tight-knit organization created a sense of community in Sicily. The Mafia's sense of family superseded the rule of law, leading to illegal affairs in this family's benefit.
Nostra was infamous for the use of the term band of honor when referring to its affiliates. This stressed the importance of loyalty and the idea of bearing virtuous qualities.
Additionally, the Sicilian Mafia stayed so powerful due to the idea that many men wanted to be held with respect that the Cosa Nostra provided for them.
With the control of territory in Italy, the Mafia was able to coexist with the legitimate state, infiltrating the local structure. Like many parasites, the Mafia nurtured off the healthy parts of the community and relied on the people to allow the Mafia to flourish. The Mafia used associates in politics to control votes and the passing of laws that would allow the Mafia to perform at the highest level.
Having power in politics and the economy gave great welding power to the Cosa Nostra. This emphasized the common idea in the Mafia that having power commands respect, the respect usually generated by fear. Till this day, the idea of the Mafia exists inside and outside of Italy. though the Mafia is now much more recognized on an international scale.
The Mafia was first recognized in Sicily in the late 19th century. Despite basic recognition, laws were evaded and destruction continued. In the mid-1900s, with the expansion of trafficking, extortion, and fraud, the Italian government began the fight against the Mafia.
Still, the Sicilian Mafia remains active, though they attempt to hide against law through their steady influence in politics. With anti-mafia laws, the Mafia currently resides most of its power in global drug trafficking.
The influence of the Sicilian Mafia can be seen throughout literature and media. Some common portrayals of Mafia in media stems from the Sicilian Mafia characterization. This can be seen in films and shows such as The Godfather, The Sopranos, The Sicilian, and the media of similar genres.
The portrayal of the Mafia in this media is very stereotypical and are often ignorant to the reality of the aggressive and destructive environment of the Mafia. Furthermore, the Mafia is often romanticized and exaggerated to make the media more entertaining. The distortion of information spreads misinformation and can lead to a downplay of the Mafia as a whole.
It's the overlooked topic of mental health within the Mafia and its members. I think it's very important to evaluate the blindsided effects of the Mafia, so here's what I found. Exploring the minds of the Mafia and crime-driven actions which led up to major consequences involving psychological and economic defects is an important insight towards the understanding of the Mafia. The Mafia is not just a criminal organization, where their main goal is to generate significant wealth and power through criminal activities. Entering members are obligated to completely change their sense of personal being and begin a psychological process that distorts the mind in order to be immersed into the mindset of the group.
A professor with the name Girolamo Lo Verso is a psychiatrist and writer who started offering a course over 2 decades ago at the University of Palermo. This course studied the psychology of the Mafia in the heart of a city where the Sicilian Mafia once existed. Everything changes when something disrupts the mobsters' lives. Lo Verso goes on to explain that as long as a boss of the Mafia remains an active participant to the group, they do not show any signs of psychological suffering whatsoever. They become suppressed because of the extreme indulgence they contribute to the Mafia.
Their personal thoughts and opinions become altered to fit those in the group. However, when there is a detachment from the Mafia, they are forced to face their own selves. They are forced to face their own lives and problems after their lives spent being a criminal. This is called an identity crisis.
People who decide to testify against the mob are the ones who actually suffer the most. These people are called pentiti, who are transferred to secret locations amongst Italy and cut completely from their current lives. Psychologists who have worked and spoke to victims of pentiti were said to be the most unstable, devastated people of them all. A quote from psychologist Lo Verso says, "During my research, I had the opportunity to meet a Sicilian Mafia hitman from the Marchese clan. He lived in a secret location in a tiny village far away from Sicily. He suffered from depression and insomnia. He had killed more than 100 people, and 50 of them he had strangled. He had enormous hands. Nevertheless, when he told me that his only companion was a dog, I felt pity for him."
Not only are the impacts of the Mafia felt by the members themselves, but the families of the members as well.
The mothers, brothers, and sisters who have lost husbands, their siblings, fathers, and their beloved children are the most affected from the brutality of the mob.
Most of these people struggle to move on with their own lives and end up suffering with dissociative disorders. Unfortunately, Italy has an extremely weak system of support for those in need, which can lead to the downfall of future generations as they are stuck with the same issues or went back to the Mafia.
We all thank you for listening to our podcast today. We hope that you learned some new and exciting facts about the Sicilian Mafia, just like we did.